Okay. All righty. Let's jump in. Thank you so much for taking your time to join our Zoom today. It is once again Wednesday.
I look forward to it. I was listening to your, or read your text about how, well, I understand your English better than the rest is basically what I said.
Okay. Well,
You were looking to pick up on their vocabulary,
mm-hmm.
but I find it much easier to understand through you.
Well, there are different ways of looking at it. On the
Yeah,
one hand, I've been spending a lot of time just thinking about word in general for many years.
yeah,
But at the same time, to protect myself from being prideful and arrogant with that compliment, I can simply say that you understand it because you are a vibrational match for it.
Yeah.
yes,
It is your total causality, your total causal knowledge, and your total causal affinity that had given you to the total causal outcome, which is the understanding of this material in the language as it is being shared to you. If I'm
yeah.
not here to share it, somebody else would have been here
Oh
to
yeah,
share it, and they may
yeah.
have done it a better job than I do.
I even enjoy listening to Taiwan, even though I don't understand them.
There you go. See, so
Just his
you
voice,
are
the way
blessed. It's considered so blessed to be in the environment, to be in contact with the knowledge. Yeah, it is not us who is who can take credit. It is to your credit that you are blessed. You have accumulated enough fortune, okay, to be exposed to this material, and so that you get to experience it right now. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So as a tradition, well, before, do you remember anything? Would you like to share anything about last week's discussion?
I've actually haven't even looked at it all week. I've been working all week.
Oh,
Uh, I do have my notes here though.
hello, Wang Mai. Thank you for joining our Zoom. I'm very grateful for your presence.
What stands out for you?
What stands out for me? Always the will to hear, speak, say, see.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
always a lot of things I'm working on with that. Just
Okay.
what I hear and what I see, I just kind of I'm trying more to block it out. Some things that are not pleasant.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And the last week we talked about the energy of serenity. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Basically, it's
serenity.
not dropped and release, seize and release.
I'm sorry, say again.
The stop dropped, seized and released.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I'm learning to do.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Or simply to let go. You
Yes.
don't have to let it go forever. You don't have to lose it, but it's like a heavy backpack. We just
Yeah.
drop it. And when we want to, we pick it back up.
Mhm.
Yeah, we just drop it. And so we become detached from it. And then when we need to use our mind again, we use our mind. We need to emote again using our emotion, we use our emotion. You pick it up when appropriate. That is wisdom. Okay, having wisdom is the ability to knowing when to pick it up and when to let it go. Right? And it gives us a lot of power to be able to choose to let it go or to pick it up. Before we understood the truth within ourselves, before we knew that we have this simple, simplistic almost nature, the already always hearing, the already always seeing, the already always speaking and knowing, then we are entangled, constantly being trapped by emotion and our mind, constantly thinking, constantly feeling, and it just drives us wherever it wants to go. We were not the driver of our destiny. We're not the pilot of our boat. It just takes us wherever we want to go. But now that we have this knowledge, this awareness that there is a simple truth that we are always ready and listening hearing and seeing, then at any moment in time, we can take refuge in that, on that little raft, and we can feel serenity, which is inner peace. Right? And from then on, we can choose to pick up whatever emotion that we find appropriate, or think whichever way that we feel is appropriate. And the longer we can stay on the raft, the longer we can hold that state of emptiness, the more we feel balanced, the more we feel peace. And it's like a lake, that is the surface of the lake that is so still, so balanced, so quiet, then we actually become much more sensitive, even to the smallest gust of wind. Even a single leaf drop on the still lake, you can sense the ripple. And with that, it will enable us to be wiser, to pick the best course of action, soundness of decision, soundness of judgment, okay, is one of the benefit of having a balanced emptiness inside. Okay, not the kind of emptiness that depressed people feel. That's trying to fill with something. That's negative state. It is a highly balanced, highly energized state of serenity that we call the energy of emptiness. Yeah. And when we have a nature of emptiness as a human being, then all things, everything else, we also have the power to see everything else has the essence of emptiness as well, empty of meaning. Then whatever meaning that we see when we encounter a situation or we encounter another person is the meaning that we choose to attribute to it. There's a lot of power in that. Yeah. Okay. So let's jump in today. So as a tradition, okay, we generate the purpose of our interaction. Each Wednesday we get together and we try to expand our awareness. Okay. Expand our awareness. Create for ourselves and the people around us health, happiness, and even peace. We talked about inner peace last week. Okay, health, happiness, and peace. And in order to do that, we try to align ourselves with universal principles and natural laws. And one of the universal principles and natural law is the law of causality, or cause and effect. When it comes to cause and effect, the effects are the fruit that we reap. Okay? The cause are the seed. Of course, if you plant the seed, you may not get the fruit that you want right away, because we throw the seed into bad ground, or if we throw it out onto the street, birds will eat it, cars will run over it. Or if we plant the seed in shallow soil, it may grow into a little plant, but it would still not bear fruit. So we need the condition. In order to reap the kind of fruit that we want, which is desirable outcomes in life, we need an appropriate condition. Okay? The seed, the fruit, and the condition. Good seed plus favorable condition give us good fruit. Okay, so we're going to say good seed. We get favorable condition, good soil, good water, good fertilizer. It's going to bear good fruit. That's simple. Now, that is the analogy of the physical material world, right? The seed, the fruit, the condition, with the soil. When it comes to human life and experience, we use the same law of causality. With human life and experience, the good seed with it, let's say that we want the good fruit, okay, a good life, which is health, okay, happiness, peace, okay. These are the fruits, okay. What kind of seed is going to bring about a life of health, happiness, and peace? Well, first of all, the seed within us is called our inner awareness. That is what we try to do each week. Expand our inner awareness, awareness about ourselves, awareness about other people, about principles and natural laws. And then we need a condition too. Okay, the condition is the affinity with other people. Okay, affinity means attraction with other people. So if we have good awareness about ourselves, if we have good positive affinity with other people, then it is a simple matter to experience, to be able to come to a reality or to bear the fruit of good health, happiness, and peace. Pretty simple, right? Cause and effect, causality. So far, the seed within us, the inner awareness we've been working on is wisdom. Okay? With wisdom, it gives rise to attitude. A person of wisdom is a person who is able to rotate among different positive attitude of serenity, attitude of magnanimity, attitude of honoring gratitude. Okay, so those a person of wisdom can rotate among different attitude, and you can bear fruit. The fruit of wisdom and attitude give us character. Okay, all right. So before moving on to other seed, the wisdom we already discussed. So let's use the same color. So there are 5 levels. Okay, 5 levels of wisdom correspond to 5 levels of awareness. Attitude, there are only 3 attitudes that we need to worry about. There's so many different attitudes, but why bother complicating it? Why not just focus on 3 high energy, super highly balanced energy? The attitude of serenity. Right, we talked about that last week. Inner peace, emptiness, powerful, highly balanced energy. Today, we're going to talk about the attitude of magnanimity. Okay. And then next week, we may talk about honoring gratitude. Depend on what else is there I wanted to share. Okay. We may get to it, we may not get to something else first. Okay. Honoring gratitude. Okay, and then with wisdom and attitude, with 5 levels of wisdom and awareness, with serenity, magnanimity, and honor and gratitude, then after that we will talk about what it means to be a person of character. That is going to be the physical, material manifestation of a person of wisdom and a person of good attitude. Okay, and so this is what our house of holistic health look like. Okay. We begin by lighting up the first candle, which is the candle of wisdom. 5 levels of wisdom, we went over 3 already. We probably don't need to go to 4 and 5, but when it's appropriate, I may talk about level 4 and 5. We are working on our attitude, okay? Let's see. So here's another slide for wisdom, okay? So wisdom. Wisdom has a physicality or material manifestation. It has an energy aspect, and it has an informational or source concept aspect. The source concept or the informational aspect of wisdom are the 5 states of awareness corresponding to 5 levels of wisdom. Okay. With the energy, it is serenity, magnanimity, and honoring gratitude. Okay. Right. So today we're going to talk about magnanimity. It is the energy of wisdom. Okay, from a reality triangle perspective. So those of you who don't know what I'm talking about when I say reality of triangle or triangle of reality, You can go back to some of the previous episode, okay? The energy of wisdom is also the energy of attitude. Okay, a person of good attitude, person who is peaceful. Today we're going to learn what it means to be a person of magnanimity. Okay. All right, let me check my note real quick. All right. Okay, so let's talk about magnanimity. Let's see. Gonna begin with the Vietnamese definition of magnanimity. Okay, the Vietnamese word is, so for those of you who are studying the Vietnamese teaching, this is the word that we are working on. Dung is dung lượng, meaning volume. Okay, volume. Bao is to contain. It's a bag. Literally, it is a bag. It's a bag of volume, the ability to contain, having volume. Okay. I have chosen to use the English word magnanimity. It came from a Latin word, magnanimous. Magnanimous. Okay, the word mag means to big, right? Big, great. Magnify, get it? Magnify. Magnify, right? To make something big, magnificent, the great. The word animus means spirit. Magnanimous means so state. Magnanimity here means a state. I'm going to write it here. Let's say state of being great spirit. Okay. Magnanimous also means generosity. Right? A lot of volume, lot to give. If we remember in the interaction about the 7 great gifts of life, it is our gift of space, the gift of our spirit, the gift of our generosity. Okay? Generosity. Okay? The state of being great spirit. Okay? So that is why I've chosen the word magnanimity to represent the Vietnamese concept of bao dung. Okay, and we will come to understand why that is in a little bit. Okay, there's a spiritual dimension to it. There's a greatness, there's a bigness. Okay, there's a generosity dimension to it. Magnanimity. Okay. So let's write that word again one more time. And then we're gonna see why it is such a wonderful, powerful word. Magnanimity. Okay, magnanimity. With magnanimity, I want to call attention to several other words that you may have heard before. tolerance. Okay. You may have heard mercy. You may have heard of the word or the virtue of forgiveness. Okay. All of these are wonderful, wonderful virtues that people really honor and respect. Okay. It is something that human beings try to strive to become. Okay. To have. I'll start with the progression and then I'll go into little details. Okay. Let's see. Imagine this cup. I have a cup. Okay, a bottle. Imagine this bottle contained the fault that another person has committed. Okay. Imagine there is somebody committed 10 points worth of fault. A person of forgiveness will see 10 points worth of fault, will take into their body all 10 points worth of fault. Over time, that amount of severity kind of get diminished to, let's say, 6 or 7 points worth of fault. And then finally, we let it go. We say, I forgive. Okay, so a person of forgiveness, which is a wonderful virtue, see 10 points worth of fault from another person, take in all 10 points. Over time, that severity diminishes to 6 to 7, and then we let it go. Of course, if another person recommit the same fault, the same offense, we take in all 10 points again. Okay, then over time, severity diminishes to about 6 or 7. Then we say we forgive. Okay, a person of mercy is a little bit different. Another person may commit 10 points worth of fault, but a person of mercy somehow, through the way they perceive the other person, their own awareness and perception, they take in only 6 or 7. They take in only 6 or 7. And over time, the severity just through time diminishes to maybe 3 or 4. And then they can let it go. Okay, so a person of mercy or a merciful person, even though they say 10 points worth of fault, somehow through the awareness and perception of themselves, of another person, of the situation, they are able to somehow take in only 6 or 7. Over time, the severity diminishes to 3 or 4, and they can be more readily let it go. That is a person of mercy. A person of tolerant. Oh, that's even better. A person of tolerant, when somebody commit 10 points worth of fault, they see only maybe 4 or 5. They take in only about 4 or 5. Over time, the severity diminishes to maybe 1 or 2, or even nothing at all. So a person of tolerance or a tolerant person can be much, much more readily letting go of other person's fault. Because somehow, even though a person can commit 10 points worth of fault, they are only taking 4 or 5. That's less than average. And then time will heal, or, it'll go down to 1 or 2. It is simple to let it go, or it goes down to 0. You don't even have to worry about it anymore. That is a progression between forgiveness to mercy to tolerance. With forgiveness, a person commit 10 points worth of fault, we take in all 10 points worth of fault. Imagine when a person does something, some offense, and we think that is bad, and we take in all 10, isn't that equivalent to drinking poison? Right? When a person does something and we retain that fault in the form of, say, resentment and blame, does that resentment and blame not hurt us? Right? Does it not hurt us sometime more than the other person? So resentment and blame is drinking poison and expecting the other person to die from the poison. So we are hurting other people while we are maintaining that resentment and blame. And so through time, fortunately, time has a way of diminishing the severity. And through time, we find it more simple to forgive. It's got reduced down to maybe 6 or 7. But of course, if a person recommit the same offense, then no, then we take him 10 points again. We drink the entire cup again. We get hurt again. Right? So really, forgiveness is about saving ourselves from the pain of resentment and blame. From a medical and a psychological perspective, a person who holds on to resentment and blame for a long time will experience physical illnesses like stomach ulcer, high acid level. They literally get sick. And so if for no other reason than to save ourselves, we should forgive. That is why every religion will try to teach people to be forgiving of other people. Okay. In fact, there's in the Bible. So I'm borrowing, the religious perspective from the Christian religion. In the Bible, one of the disciples asked Jesus, is it true that I should forgive my brother 7 times? Because historically, the Jewish teaching, okay, Jesus was born in a Jewish tradition, okay, in the Israel, and traditionally the religious teaching is you should forgive people 3 times, okay. To be generous, you forgive people 3 times. But here is a disciple of Jesus thinking he's even better. He would say, Jesus, is it good to forgive my brother 7 times? And Jesus said, no, you should forgive 70 times 7 times. Okay, 70 times 7 times. But here the thing is, if a person is at the level of forgiveness, then whether it's 3 times or 7 times or 70 times 7 times, each time somebody commit a fault, we take in all 10 points with the fault. That means that if you have to forgive 70 times 7 times, that is you are drinking 490 cups of poison. Yeah. So while forgiveness is a virtue, it still is very damaging to the person, to the person who sees other people as having committed fault against us. And let me share a little bit more background in terms of the progression of humanity and how, as human beings, through the history, through our evolution, intellectually, spiritually, morally, long time ago, human beings were, how do you say, more savage. When we receive some fault, we naturally want to take revenge, right? Oftentimes, individuals or tribes, when they receive some kind of offense, they would return the favor in kind, not only in the same equal amount, but much more, right? In the how do you say, in the ancient Chinese culture, for example, if a crime is committed against the king, then not only that individual gets punished, but their entire generation multiplied by 3 to 9 generations gets punished. So everybody gets punished for one crime against a king. That speaks to the degree of awareness and perception in terms of, society and law and order. And so a long time ago, when before human beings were very magnanimous, very tolerant, we practiced revenge. And we still see that in the media, in the movies. Okay, there's a lot of revenge movies and story going on. We take revenge. And oftentimes people will commit something worth of, just say, one point worth of fault, and we would take revenge 10 times more, worse. We wipe out the entire family just because they committed one fault. And so in the Jewish tradition, what they did is, in order to maintain a degree of civility, they enacted the law called eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. That is actually a law that saves humanity from savagery. If somebody committed one sin, you pay them back just one. Fair share. They take one eye, you don't take two eyes. You don't wipe out the family. You just take one eye. If somebody steals with the right hand, you just take their right hand. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth is actually a testament to the evolution of human beings' awareness and perception about our own sense of self-destructiveness. Because if one person commit a fault and we go and take revenge 10 times, and then guess what? The other side's gonna do another 10 times back. So now, we're gonna pretty soon we're gonna destroy ourselves from the cycle of revenge. It just gets worse and worse. So to protect humanity, the Jewish custom had a law that allow you to only an eye for one eye and a tooth for one tooth. That is an equal exchange. Okay, and as humanity progressed, they realized that that is not enough. Okay, one for one is not enough. It doesn't really make the society better. And so the Jewish culture advised people to forgive 3 times. Okay, they can actually commit a fault against you 3 times. Just go ahead and forgive them 3 times. Okay, not only we stop from revenge, they begin to suggest to forgive, to let it go. Not only to let it go 1 time, but 3 times. And then by the time Jesus came along, his disciple had more awareness and more perception. He proposed that maybe 7 times is even better than 3 times. Okay, because the 7 is a number that represents perfection. But even then, if you have to forgive somebody 7 times, or if you have to forgive somebody 70 times 7 times, then that means you have already drinking the poison 70 times 7 times. Pretty tiring after a while. Right? Pretty tiring after a while. Okay, and so then comes the idea of mercy. And in fact, when Jesus tells, I think Peter or somebody and his disciple, when Jesus tells them that you should forgive 70 times 7 times, what he's trying to say is you should be merciful. You should be merciful. Okay, and it speaks to a sense of generosity, because you have enough generosity within you to give another person your consideration and regard 70 times 7 times. And here's a distinction between forgiveness and mercy that I would like to share with you. As I mentioned before, forgiveness is letting go of past offense in order to protect yourself from negativity, right? Learning from the human construct, the spiritual perspective, when we go negative, when we go resentment, when we go blame, when we go anger, then all of those negativity is the seed within us. Remember causality? If our seed is negative, then guess what happened to our external outcome in life? They will also be negative. We're going to continue to attract negative circumstances in life. If our affinity with another person is negative through resentment and blame, then our outcome in life will also continue to be negative. Okay, so forgiveness is to let it go. Okay, stop from being negative. We protect ourselves. Now, as human beings evolve, we become more wiser, we become more magnanimous, we initiate the energy of mercy. With mercy, it is not so much about protecting ourselves. It's actually protecting the offender. Okay, because if the offender is committing 10 points worth of fault, and we take in 10 points of fault and we punish them 10 points worth of fault, then it could be so damaging that to the offender that they will not be able to recover. They cannot rehabilitate. They have no chance. And therefore, a person of mercy are able to take in only a small amount of fault, 6 to 7 instead of 10, and through time it gets reduced, and then they can more readily let go. And because they are more readily able to let go, they can be very forgiving. They can let go 70 times 7 times. What for? In order to save the offenders. This is a Christian perspective. In fact, God looks at humanity and sees humanity is so sinful. We have so much fault. We have committed so much crime against each other that in order to make things right by the law of causality, Okay, we deserve punishment, and the punishment that humanity deserve is total, annihilation. We would have no chance, and therefore God has to be merciful. So God has to forgive us. God takes in less fault than we have committed, and so we are invited to do the same for one another. We are invited to be merciful in order to save the other person. When a person commit a crime and they get put brought in front of a trial, a court, right, in a legal system, they go through the legal system, they do the whole trial, and the judge and the jury will give a sentencing. Let's say a person commit a murder, and the sentencing would be equivalent to capital punishment or life in jail. Well, capital punishment means the person died, and life in jail means they lose their freedom for the rest of their life. If that is the equivalent to the crime that they commit, then they would have no chance to contribute any value back to society. And so the person, the criminal, has the opportunity to beg for mercy. They have an opportunity to ask the court and the jury to reduce the sentence. They can reduce the sentence to say 20 years in jail with parole, things like that, right? Parole for good behavior, thereby giving the offender a chance to rehabilitate and to come back and contribute to society again. It is to help the offender. Mercy is to help the offender, save the offender, not so much from the person who has been offended. Okay, so that is a perspective that we shift a little bit when we are being merciful with respect to our children, with respect to our employee, right? Then when we are being merciful, we are actually saving them from the severity of the punishment in order to give them the opportunity to rehabilitate, to become a better person. Okay? Okay, so we get that, right? Forgiveness and mercy. Those are a major distinction. Let's move up. So we already talked about forgiveness and mercy. Let's make a nice mark. Any questions about forgiveness and mercy? Okay, forgiveness is to save ourselves. Mercy, save the other person. Tolerance. Okay, let's talk about tolerance. And before that, let me draw the triangle of reality of magnanimity. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, like all things in the universe, there is the material aspect. There is an energy aspect, and there is the information aspect. In the material aspect, we say we are materializing it. Okay, materialization of magnanimity. So from the materialization of magnanimity, let's take a look at so we said that the person of tolerance, okay, so the person of tolerance, materialization, we're going to use the word tolerant. Somebody commit 10 point worth of fault, okay? Through the person's own awareness and perception, the mind and the emotion, okay? They have the ability to take in only 4 or 5, less than average. Through time, the severity get reduced to 1 or 2 or even 0. Then they can more readily let it go. Okay, but it's still, there's a limit, because if the repeat offender keep on repeating the offense, then they're not going to be able to let it go so many times. Okay, let's read. Okay, let's take a look at the definition of tolerance offered to us by UNESCO. Okay, so this is tolerance. Tolerance. Okay, tolerance is a physical manifestation of magnanimity. Okay, a physical manifestation or the material manifestation of magnanimity. Okay, so tolerance is respecting and understanding the differences of others compared to ourselves. Okay, in terms of custom, life, philosophies, comma, belief, religion, race, gender, and behavior and behaviors. Okay. Tolerance is respecting and understanding the differences of others compared to ourselves in terms of custom, life philosophy, beliefs, religion, race, gender, and behaviors. Accepting that others may do things that we do not personally approve of. 2P personal approval dash within certain limits dash in order to orient them to voluntarily aspire toward goodness. Okay, okay. Nice, long, powerful definition of tolerance. Tolerance, this definition is a summary or a paraphrasing of the Declaration on Tolerance by UNESCO. Okay, United Nations Education, Science and Cultural Organization. Okay, tolerance is respecting and understanding the differences of others compared to ourselves in terms of customs, life philosophies, beliefs, religions, race, genders, and behaviors, accepting that others may do things that we do not personally approve of within certain limits in order to orient them to voluntarily aspire toward goodness. Sounds pretty cool, huh? Okay. Okay. Okay, first of all, okay, before we go deeper into this definition, magnanimity. Okay, magnanimity has a benefit, a lot of benefit. It is an energy of wisdom, it is an energy of attitude, and the benefit is that it helps us build positive, lasting social relationship. Okay. Number two is it protects our inner state from going negative. Okay, because we mentioned before, when our inner state is negative, we attract negativity into our life. It elevates our social connection from familiarity to affectionate to trusting, and thereby attract better condition and thereby attracting better outcome in our life. Okay. So this definition is going to help us see more clearly why it helps us build better connection, right? Respecting and understanding the differences of others compared to ourselves. Their culture may be different, their customs may be different, their life philosophy may be different, even the religious and belief are different races, different gender, different behavior. But if we can accept the thing that other people do, even when we don't personally approve of it, within certain limit, in order to orient them toward voluntary aspiration of goodness. Okay, so let's write that. Do you have enough time to write this whole definition down, Ron? Yeah, good. Okay, let's take a look at that that last part of okay. There is this powerful idea that I just mentioned. Voluntarily aspire toward goodness. Interesting. What does that mean? A person of tolerance or a person of magnanimity who expresses their magnanimity in a material way through tolerance is someone who can orient another person to voluntarily aspire toward goodness. Okay, so what does it look like if we are, let's say, a father or a mother, and we can orient our children to voluntarily aspire toward goodness? What would it be like if we are a boss and we can orient our employee to voluntarily aspire toward goodness? Voluntarily. So instead of using crime and punishment, right, using threat, using different forms of discipline to force another person to behave well, that is what the legal system tend to do, right? That is what the legal system is created for, to make people accountable and to keep them behave well, but it's not voluntarily. But a person of tolerance is a person who can somehow, through the way they perceive and the way they are aware of themselves and other people, they are respecting and understanding of the differences. They accept what others may do that they may not approve of within a certain limit, okay, within a certain limit, in order to orient them toward voluntarily aspire toward goodness. So when our children, let's say our children, my son, for example, let's say he gets a bad grade, okay, let's say he gets a bad grade from school. Okay, different way we can approach that situation. Before we understand the source concept of magnanimity and tolerance, I may get angry, right? Some parent may get angry. They may punish the child. They may take away his toy and his privileges and threaten him to do well in school, otherwise they'll lose more privileges. Right? People have done that all the time, right? But if they do that, then that is not as voluntary aspire toward goodness. The child does it out of fear of being punished, right? They are fear of losing the privileges and just generally negative. Many parents will pressure their children to go to school, attend certain type of school, take on certain type of job. And yes, they will get the physical outcome of the children attending those certain school, getting those grades, and performing those certain jobs. But the affinity between the child and the parent will go negative. They get to pay the price for not helping the child to voluntarily aspire toward goodness. So when my son gets a bad grade, instead of punishing him, we initiate magnanimity. Okay? We don't focus on the bad grade. How do we voluntarily aspire? How do we orient the child or guide the child to voluntarily aspire toward goodness? Simple. We show the child, hey, look at your report card. This is your grade. What do you think? If this is a bunch of, let's say, C's and D's instead of B's and A, we say, okay, what do you think about this grade? And what do you want to be your grade next year? That is what we did with our son, okay? In Vietnamese class, okay? Part of it is our fault, by the way. By the way, magnanimity is an energy of attitude that correspond to the level 2 awareness and wisdom. Okay, there are 5 levels of awareness corresponding to 5 levels of wisdom. With magnanimity, it is an energy of attitude. It corresponds to level 2 awareness and wisdom. And level 2 awareness and wisdom correspond to the formula for the root cause of life. The formula for the root cause of life says that the root cause of life begins with me, or the root cause of life originate within me. And I don't need to blame other people. There's no need to blame other people because the root cause of life begins with me. And so when my child gives me a report card of C's and D's, instantly, root cause of life begins with me, not with the child. So I don't need to blame him. I don't need to punish him. It's not his fault. Root cause of life begins with me. And so how do I orient them? How do I orient my son to voluntarily aspire toward goodness? I simply show him, look, okay, so this is your grade. And I ask him, what do you want? What do you want your grade to be next year? And I said, okay, I want B instead of C's and D's. And I said, okay, if you want B's instead of C's and D's, what do you need to do? He said, well, I need to study more. Okay, things like that. And so we can guide a person to step by step aspire toward goodness and to voluntarily work toward achieving that goal. Help them set goals, initiate level 2 awareness and wisdom, create positive mental images. And that is one of the very first system of reference that we offered in this philosophy, right? The root cause of life begins with me. Everything, all the outcome in life begin with the choices. All the choices came about as a result of our mental images, which is made up of what we think, what we hear, what we see, what we say, what we know. And so we can help another person create new possibility, new goal, new mental images. Instead of using discipline and punishment, right? A person of tolerance is a person who can orient another person to voluntarily aspire toward goodness. What about a boss? If our coworker make a mistake or they come in late, guess what? Root cause of life begins with me. Okay, then we can say, okay, root cause of life begins with me. I don't blame myself either. Okay, because at that moment of my choosing on what I did or what I not did, that's just the best that I could have known at that time. So I don't need to blame my coworker. I don't need to blame myself. I don't need to blame employee. I don't need to blame traffic either if the employee is late all the time. But I initiate level 2 awareness and wisdom. I initiate the energy of magnanimity and tolerance. I allow it to be within certain limit, and then I orient the other person to aspire toward goodness. And the way to do that is to help them paint the picture of the benefit of being on time, for instance. Right? Give them the awareness and perception that they have not had before with respect to being on time, respect to being punctual. Talk to them about integrity. All right? Do you get that? So one of the powerful aspects of the definition that UNESCO has given to us is the idea that even though another person may do things that we do not personally approve of, we don't need to blame them. We don't need to be resentful. We can, within limit, allow it to happen. At the same time, orient them toward voluntarily aspire toward goodness. So we have to empower them. We have to be able to help them see where they want to go and to voluntarily go there. And where they want to go is goodness. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that is a power of tolerance. Okay. First of all, we don't take a lot of offense because root cause of life begin with me. So that's why a person of tolerance, when seeing upon 10 point worth of fault, doesn't take in 10 point. Naturally, it's just 4 or 5. Okay. Over time, it gets reduced to, actually, naturally, it's just 1 or 2. And over time, 4 or 5, over time, 1 or 2, or nothing. So a person of tolerant can be very generous, can afford to be very generous. In fact, let's go to the next one, and then we'll talk about the idea of generosity. Okay, so first one is voluntarily aspire toward goodness. So here is the okay, so when it comes to reality triangle of magnanimity, we have tolerance. Okay. Within tolerance, there is aspire toward goodness. But there is next, there is another word. What does that say? Oh, first word, respecting. Tolerance is respecting. Okay, so respecting. Just gonna write the word respect. Okay, so in the definition, it says tolerance is respecting and understanding the differences of others compared to ourselves. In terms of custom, life philosophy, belief, religion, etc., etc., etc. So tolerance has to do with respect. So let me ask you this again. Respect versus not respect. So have we taken the time to sit down and think about what it means to be respected and what it means to not be respected? What are kind of things that other people would do to us that would make us feel respected? And what are the kind of things that people would do that would say, oh, that's not respectful? Or how about what are some of the things that we do that would make us a person who is respectful instead of a person who is unrespectful? Okay, so let me tell you a story. Two millionaires walk into a high-end fashion shop. Here, two millionaires, lots of money. They walk into a high-end clothing fashion store. Each of them happened that day to be not wearing anything fancy. In fact, they're wearing very plain clothing, okay, almost poor looking. And upon seeing these individuals wearing clothes that are kind of poor looking, the shop owner treats them as if they don't have any money. Didn't try to cater to them, didn't try to serve them. Okay. Now, one of the millionaires has a sense of material fulfillment. And the other millionaire has a sense of material incompleteness. The person who has a sense of material incompleteness will quickly get angry, upset by not being treated like a millionaire. By the shop owner, right? The shop owner is a high-end fashion shop owner. And here comes a millionaire. Even though he has a lot of money, he's just dressing in plain clothing and he's expecting to be respected. He's expecting good, proper treatment that a millionaire person deserves. And so he gets very upset. He gets angry. He'd say, you know, I have enough money not only to buy all your clothes, but I can buy all your whole company. But instead, I'm not gonna buy anything because you don't treat me like I deserve. You don't give me the respect I deserve. I got more money than you do. That is what a person who has a sense of incompleteness with respect to his or her material possession. On the other hand, another millionaire of the same situation walks in wearing plain clothing, not getting the same treatment that a millionaire deserves. But that person, on the other hand, has a sense of fulfillment in his or her own material well-being. And so they don't feel the need to get upset. If the shop doesn't want to treat them, then okay, they'll just go next door. He doesn't have a need to be respected by another person. Why? Because a person who has material completeness or fulfillment respect themselves first. Right? There is no hole to be filled. A person may have a lot of money, but if the sense that the money is not enough to them, they would always look for that hole to be filled, for that missing piece to be completed. But a person who has self-respect does not need other people to respect them. You gotta get that part? So this is a powerful awareness and perception when it comes to tolerance and magnanimity. A person who is incomplete, who feels unfulfilled, whether it's in material possession or emotionally or spiritually, when they are unfulfilled, they tend to look for other people to fill those gaps with things that they would call respect. They demand to be respected. On the other hand, a person who has a sense of completeness, that they are already fulfilled, irregardless of how much money they have or not have, if they are already fulfilled with love, if they are already fulfilled in spirit, and blessed them if they are already fulfilled in material possession, then they have a sense of respect for themselves. Then they don't need other people to give them respect. And because they are full and complete, they can afford to be generous to other people. They can afford to be generous and be considerate and give people their regard. A person who is spiritually, mentally, emotionally fulfilled is more readily tolerant of other people. They are more magnanimous. They are simply generous in spirit. Hence the word magnanimous, okay, a great spirit. They have a great volume of completeness. Spiritually, mentally, emotionally, they have it all. So they don't need other people to give them respect. They have respect for themselves already. Okay, do you get that? Therein lies the power of magnanimity, a state of being spiritually fulfilled, emotionally complete, mentally generous with other people. So they don't demand any respect from other people because they already have respect for themselves and they can be more readily respecting of other people. So a millionaire who has a sense of completeness can respect the shop owner if he doesn't give him the time of his day. He can initiate positive thoughts such as, oh, maybe the shop owner is really busy today. I can always come back. Maybe the shop owner should pay attention to some other customers because I don't have that much of a need anyway. On the other hand, the person who has a sense of incomplete, who trying to get respect, who trying to fill that hole, is going to demand respect. And if their respect is not met, they're gonna tend to be resentful. They will start blaming. They will go angry. They will go negative. Okay, so powerful idea of respect. So a person of magnanimity who has the physical material manifestation of tolerance is more readily respecting and understanding of the differences in others. Okay, so respect is one of the big ones. Okay, so I wrote down in the triangle of reality, tolerance, and respect. Okay, do you get that? So in other words, another way of saying it is that a person of tolerance is a person whose awareness and perception is such that they already have a sense of internal fulfillment. Okay, that sense of internal fulfillment is equate to a sense of abundance. They can afford to give. That is why in these 7 great givings of life, one of the gifts is a gift of magnanimity, give of your spirit. You can give another person your respect, they give another person your spirit, give another person your generosity. We can give them your consideration and regard if we are the person of tolerance. Okay, the next one is well, let's talk. How about yeah? So a person of fulfillment does not expect respect from other people. In other words, they could also say they do not expect the change in other people, because here, if you remember, one of the rules of living, to expect change in other people is the beginning of suffering. Right? To start changing oneself is the beginning of happiness. So it also ties to that statement, the rule of living. To expect change in others is the beginning of suffering, but to change oneself is the beginning of happiness. A person of magnanimity, a person of great spirit, is more readily tolerant, more readily respecting of other people, and therefore no need to expect any change from other people. let's draw another story from the Bible. In the Bible, there's a saying that say that there's a sense of turning the other cheek, right? Jesus said, when somebody slap you on one side of the face, just give them your other side. It is not an invitation to commit extra crime. It speaks to the sense of fulfillment. Okay, when somebody slaps you, you don't take offense. They can slap the other face, no problem. Jesus said, when somebody tried to rob your outer coat, offer them your inner coat as well. It speaks to the sense of fulfillment. You don't feel a sense of loss because you have that fullness within you, the sense of completeness. When a rich person comes and asks Jesus, what do I need to do to go to heaven? Jesus said, give away all your possession. It speaks to the sense of fulfillment. A person who is spiritually, mentally, emotionally fulfilled doesn't have a need to hold on to material possession, stuff like the money. So they can afford to give and give and give and give. And the more they give, if we understand the law of the engine of merit, the more you give, the more you get from a spiritual perspective. Okay, that speaks to the spirit of magnanimity. Forgiving your brother 7 times 70 times, giving your other person your inner coat along with your outer coat when somebody demands your outer coat, turn the other cheek, all of that speak to the same idea of magnanimity and tolerance. But it has to come from a sense of fulfillment from within. Because if we're not fulfilled, if we're still wanting, then we're going to always looking for things to fill that hole, fill that gap, and we're going to be easily upset. It's going to be more difficult to forgive and let go. Okay. So here's another one that is more of a Zen perspective. Has anybody ever gotten the sense that no matter what we do, even we treat other people, even we behave appropriately, we get the sense that they still don't respect us? Anybody ever experienced something like that? We treat them appropriately, we do everything we can, we don't do anything wrong, yet we get the sense that some other people still don't respect us. Well, our Master Tuan gives us an insight. And he says that if you have a sense that somebody is not giving you the respect you deserve, or in other words, if you can sense a sense of disrespect, then that means there is still a seed of disrespect within you. In other words, you have not, come to a sense of fulfillment and completeness with respect to yourself. Right? So when we see somebody do anything that is disrespecting to us, it's not what they do. It is seed within us that is reflected outside, and we perceive that as disrespect from other people. But a person of magnanimity, of great spirit, is completely fulfilled and has no need to demand respect from other people. And when other people do something, disrespect or not disrespect, they only take in a tiny part. And so, there's no need to forgive anything. See how life can be more simple when you don't have to forgive? It's kind of a bother to have to forgive all the time. But if you can achieve a state of magnanimity, you don't have to bother with forgiveness. There's no fault to deal with. Okay. Okay, let's see. How about root cause of life? Once again, level 2, awareness and wisdom. Okay, root cause of life begins with me. In that root cause, in the formula for the root cause of life, there's also an interaction about the pen, right? Human being has a nature of emptiness. All things have the essence of emptiness in them as well, empty of meaning. If I am no one, then I can become anyone. If I'm already someone, then I cannot become anyone else. So what that speaks to is an attachment to ego identity. It is an attachment to a sense of self. But if we are no one, we are detached from that sense of ego identity, then people can't offend. There's no ego identity to offend. If I'm attached to my sense of, I don't know, let's say a father, and somebody insult my ability to raise my son, then I would get offended. Then I have to go through this whole process of, oh, okay, am I forgiving? Did I take in all 10 points? Am I gonna let it go? Or am I merciful? Do I have to let the other person go? A lot of trouble. But if I'm not attached to my sense of identity as a father, then people can say whatever they want. It has no meaning. How about if we are attached to the sense of, being a good worker? We work hard every day and we expect a promotion and a raise, but instead of giving us a promotion, a raise, a boss comes in and reprimands us for some small thing that we made a mistake. If we are attached to our sense of being a good worker, then we're gonna feel offended. Then we have to either forgive or be merciful or tolerant. But if we are detached from the sense of identity, at appropriate time, when you're working and you're trying to achieve and you're trying to set a goal, yeah, be a good worker. That is a sense of identity that we take on. But as soon as the moment somebody criticizes that sense of identity, we let it go. We completely protect ourselves from any pain and suffering. We don't let ourselves go negative because we can let it go. We just drop it right there. Okay, you can insult that sense of identity, but that's not me, because who I am is nothing. I am no one. Wisdom is being able to drop, stop, seize, and release at appropriate time. And when appropriate, we'll pick it back up. Right? Powerful knowledge on magnanimity and tolerance. Okay? So that's respect. And then the next part, it says understanding. Okay, tolerance is understanding. Okay, understanding the differences of others compared to ourselves in terms of custom, life philosophy, belief, religion, race, genders, and behavior. That is more of a physical, material definition of understanding. But we also open our awareness and perception, because now we have more than understanding on just these physical material stuff. We have an understanding of, let's say, the human construct. We understand human nature. Human nature goes positive and negative, right? This is a map of human nature. In here, highly balanced, no positive or negative. As we get out here, we have desire, temperament, perception, pride, discernment, ethic, and judgment. These things goes positive and negative. And so when somebody does something that may be offensive, we realize that, oh, now we have an understanding that, oh, it is just their human nature that is operating. It is not their true nature. Their true nature will always be perfect. Their true nature will always be the image of God. It is just the human nature. It'll fluctuate. Yeah, it'll be negative, but eventually it'll be positive again. And it'll go negative and it'll go positive. And that's just their human nature. Then we can afford to be understanding. We can afford to be generous with our spirit. We can give them our consideration and regard. We understand that inner awareness determines our external outcome. Okay, that understanding that our own inner awareness, if we see somebody as disrespecting us, that is because there is a seed of disrespect within us that resonate outward, and we perceive it as disrespect. And we understand from the human construct the vibrational energy frequency. Remember that the operating principle of the conscious mind talks about the vibrational energy frequency. Whatever frequency that our inner being vibrates at, we are going to experience that externally as some material physical object. And we can only experience that which vibrate at the same frequency as our being, who we are. If we want to experience better outcome in life, more respectful person, more loving person, then we are got to vibrate at a high level, more positive level. And in order to vibrate at a higher level, higher frequency, we have to accumulate fortune and blessings. It is the engine of merit and grace, of good fortune. And to do that, we help other people. We give. We do the 7 gifts. When we do something good for other people, we deposit a positive seed in our good fortune account. Our energy goes up. And when our energy goes up, we experience more positive outcome in life. If we help other people open their level 3 wisdom and experience true emptiness and experience serenity, then we too will more readily experience true emptiness and serenity. And when we experience more emptiness and serenity, then the negative stuff will be drowned out. Okay. When in our garden of subconscious, now we have understanding. Okay, more understanding. Now that we understand the garden of the subconscious, the operating principle of the subconscious mind, there are things that science cannot explain. Why some people meet somebody for the first time and they have a positive or negative affinity with that person. The only way to understand that is to allow for the possibility that we have already accumulated and cultivated the positive or negative seed of affinity with another person, either early in this lifetime or many past lifetimes. And when we understand that, then we can consciously choose to go positive by performing good deed for other people, thereby accumulating positivity for ourselves, thereby experiencing positive outcome in life. And we have that kind of understanding, then what other people do doesn't matter. It's all root cause within us. We understand that fate, where we are now, our outcome in life is kind of like fate because it obeys the law of cause and effect. But we can change our fate. We can change the cause and thereby changing the effect. And so it doesn't matter if the person has different custom, life philosophy, belief, religion, race, or gender, or how they behave, the root cause of life still begins with me, and I don't need to blame them. All right. But from a material perspective, it's still limited. Okay, there's the within limit. We can tolerate somebody, but within limit. Let me write down the word respect. Respect, already we wrote down. Understanding is the next one. Okay. Understand. Okay. Respect, understand. And then there's another one. Is there another word? Okay. So accept. There's a word accept. Respecting and understanding the differences of others compared to ourselves in terms of custom, life, philosophy, belief, religion, race, gender, behavior, accepting that others may do things we do not personally approve of within certain limit. So there's the word accepting. Okay. So where does accepting comes from? Okay. Well, we study the human construct. We study human nature. Let me see if I can find that. Positive and negative polarity. So this is a human construct. Okay. We have desire, temperament, perception, pride, discernment, ethic, and judgment. And those have a positive and negative polarity. Acceptance comes from judgment. We judge other people, right or wrong, good or bad. But a person who is obstinate does not accept. We only take our own perspective. We don't accept other people. A person who is open-minded will be more readily accepting of other people. So it is a human nature part of the judgment. Okay, so we now understand human construct, so we can more readily understand accepting that others may do things that we do not personally approve of. Okay, in order to orient them to voluntarily aspire toward goodness. Okay. So to understand, to respect, to accept is to be tolerant, which is a physical manifestation of magnanimity. In other words, to understand, to respect, to accept is to be magnanimous. Okay. But with anything that is material, there is a limitation to it. Any question or impression about it before we move on to the energetic aspect of magnanimity? Was that going too fast? I felt I was going a little fast. Yeah, we talked about tolerance already. What do you guys think? Impression so far? Impression, question, realization. Anybody want to share your lesson and impression about the materialization of magnanimity before we move on to the energy and the informational corner of magnanimity? Hello, Jihua. What are your impression today?
Impression. So I'm doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Can Ron is saying how can he copy that Zalo, but Ron does not have a Zalo yet. Although you still communicate through Telegram, right?
Yeah, you can communicate with me to Telegram, but if you, it's a good idea to this Zalo link I posted on our Telegram. So you can go into our Telegram, the House of Holistic Health and Happiness, and just click on it, and then it should take you to the Zalo download. Or once you download and click on it to join our Zalo group.
Okay.
Some people have begun to move over. For now, I'm just gonna post on both until we figure things out.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there are 300 people in our Telegram group, but only like a handful of people or a dozen people in our Zalo group. So they might not have received that that Zalo link until they might not have checked it, but that's okay.
That's right. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So no impression so far? No lesson today? Anything new, Ron? This is like second or third time you hear me talk about magnanimity, right?
Yes.
Anything stood out today?
I was thinking, I just had a phone call, so my head's wrapped around that, but I'm not letting it go, I guess. But
Okay.
I think I'm getting it.
Okay. Okay.
There were some things I was thinking of saying earlier, and I just lost them.
That's fine. It'll come back to you. You tell yourself it'll come back to me. Yeah,
Yeah.
don't say the word I lost it. Just say it'll come back to me.
Yeah.
Okay. So just a very short, continuation. Not much material left. But so that was the materialization or the material aspect of magnanimity. Okay, tolerance, respect, understanding, accepting. Let's look at the energy aspect of magnanimity. Like we said, in the reality triangle, all things that we can sense, that we can touch, that we can see, that we can become aware of, that we can measure, has a material manifestation, right? Magnanimity materializes as tolerance that involves respect, understanding, and accepting within certain limit. In order for that material manifestation to come to be, there is an energy aspect, okay? A spiritual aspect, you can even say that, okay? So the energy or the energy aspect of magnanimity or the energization Okay, energization of magnanimity is simply desire and imagination stop. Oop, no S. Okay, just stop. Desire and imagination stop. By the way, in the materialization, this word accepting, right? Accepting has to do with the judgment, right? Accepting and open-minded, it has to do with the human nature, which is different from the word reception, welcomely receive. Okay, when we receive a message and we welcomely receive something, it is our true self, our true nature that welcomely receives it. But when we accept, it is through the operation of the human nature. So we are going to distinguish the different layers. Level 3 wisdom, serenity operate within our true self. Level 2 wisdom, magnanimity operate within the mind, the human nature. Okay, it is the analysis and distinguish part that allow us to distinguish the differences of people and then choosing to accept them using open-mindedness. Okay, so that's just a little tidbit there. So when we say desire and imagination stop, guess what? It is in the human nature. Desire in imagination. Human being are heavily dominated by our desire. We always want things. We are always imagination and thinking about things. And when our imagination and desire are not met, we tend to go negative. We resent, we blame, we go angry. Okay, so when it comes to magnanimity, the energy of magnanimity is when desire and imagination right here simply stops. When our desire and imagination stop, then we can afford and we are more readily magnanimous. Take for example, if my son comes home with a report card that shows C's and D's, in that instant, if I realize that, oh, if I desire and if I imagine that he would get a lot of A's, I have a lot of expectation of certain grade. If that desire and imagination is not met, then I would go negative. But at that moment, I simply stop my desire and imagination. I don't care about high grade anymore. Then at that moment, I can afford to be magnanimous. Okay, just at the moment. Okay, we can stop at that moment. We can pick it up later. Okay, wisdom is having ability to stop when needed and pick it back up when we want to. So, but in order to protect ourselves against going negative, at that moment when something undesirable happens, undesirable is negative desire, okay? Something undesirable happen is when our desire is not met. And, instead of thinking about it negatively, we just allow it to stop momentarily. And in that moment, when we stop desire in imagination, then so we can initiate the energy of magnanimity. Okay? And it is, in fact, desire and imagination that usually bring us a lot of suffering. It is when we let it go, when we know how to stop desire and imagination, that we are able to save ourselves and save other people. Okay? Desire and imagination and identity, right? We have the focus of human nature, is desire and imagination. And what do we desire about? We desire about resources, appearances, identity, consumption, rest. Take, for example, it is after work, we're driving home. It's been a long day, we're tired, we're hungry. Guess what? We are now desiring resources, food. We have imagination, we're thinking about food. And when we come home, there's no food on the table. We expect food to be on the table. Our desire and imagination is for resources, for nourishment, and we don't see food on the table. Instead of allowing ourselves to go negative, we simply stop desiring. I don't care about food. Or at least not that particular food. If we expect our wives or our husband to be the person who prepare food, then what will happen is that we are having a desire and imagination for a certain sense of identity. That person has to be the person who make the food. That appearance, food has to be on the table. Consumption, food is consumption. Resources has to do with money and power. Okay, consumption. Yeah, we have a desire for consumption, but at that moment, we just stop. Stop thinking about the particular food. Stop thinking about that particular food, and we switch. We allow ourselves to switch. We think of a different kind of food. We can go make our own food and go out to eat for dinner, call a pizza or something. Wisdom is being able to stop that desire and imagination and initiate a new one when appropriate. Because if we don't, and we're attached to the desire of consumption, and we're attached to the identity, let's say our wife is supposed to be the one who make it, and we don't get it, then we get angry for not having the food, and we resent our wife for not cooking it. We go negative. And when we go negative, our internal state is negative, guess what? We are going to attract more negativity. We're going to behave inappropriately. All right? Desire in imagination stops. It is also important for us to recognize and be magnanimous with ourselves. Our attachment to identity, our sense of self, who we are, right? Our fault, for instance. Many of us blame ourselves for our failure, blame ourselves for not having this, not having that. So, and we are attached to the ego identity of other people, what they have done to us. Okay, so let me tell you another story. A story of a girl and her dream. So there's this girl. She's experiencing a lot of illnesses. Okay, her health is in poor condition. She's very sick, and every night she would see a house. Every night she goes to sleep, she would see a house. And as she approached the house, she would hear people crying and screaming inside, and she would be afraid, and so she would run away, and she would wake up. And as the girl's health declined over the years, as her health declined, the house that she sees in her dream also get noisier and louder, and it looked like it wanted to crumble and fall apart. And so one day, she goes to different doctors, and doctor cannot find anything wrong with her physically. Okay, so one of her family members say that, why don't you go up to the mountain? There is a Zen master who understands the matters of the heart and matters of the spirit, and he may be able to save you from your ailment. So this girl, she goes up to the mountain, she finds a Zen master, and she tells the Zen master that, look, my health is getting worse and worse every day. And every night I have this nightmare where I see a dilapidated house about to fall, and I hear noises of the people inside the house, a lot of suffering. And so after listening intently to the girl's story, the Zen master gives her a key. He put the key around the girl's neck, and he said, next time that you see this house, take the key, open the door. The girl said, okay, I'll do what you say. And so she goes home. That night she goes to sleep. And like before, she sees the dilapidated house about to fall down, and she hears noise of people crying and suffering from the inside. And she approached the house, she put the key, but before she turns the key, she looked through the crack and she sees the faces of all the people who have hurt her in the past. Faces of her very difficult mother-in-law, faces of her co-worker who stabbed her back, faces of her boss who had reprimanded her, childhood friend who had belittled her, bullied her, even the three-legged dog who tried to chase her and bite her when she was little. And so she see that, she pulls out the key, and she thought to herself, you know, these people, they deserve to be locked up in the house. So she turned away and walked away, even with a smile on her face, knowing that these people are now imprisoned to their own suffering. And so she wakes up and she continues on with her life. But her health does not get improved. It gets worse and worse. And so finally, one day, she can't put up with it anymore. She goes to the Zen master one more time and she tells her story again. And this time the Zen master say, what does the house look like? And she tells the Zen master, look, I try to open the door, but I see all of these people who really hurt me. And I feel that they deserve to be locked up. And the Zen master said, looking at your health condition, you don't have a lot of time left. In fact, when that house falls down, so will your life. So you have really no choice. You need to open that door and free those people. And so the girl listened to the Zen master. She goes away, she goes home. When that night, when she goes to sleep, she sees the dilapidated house. She approached the house. She hears all the people, peeked inside, see all the people who used to hurt her. But this time she found the courage to put the key in, and she turned the key, opened the door. She let all the people out. Okay, her mother-in-law came out, her old friend came out, her boss, her coworker, all the people who hurt out, who had used to hurt her come out. Even the three-legged dog ran out, and they were free. And she looked into this house and she finally see one person left, shaking, sick, raggedy looking. And she approached and she said, hey, girl, come on. You need to leave this house before it collapses. And as she approached the girl, she noticed that it is herself. She's in the middle of the room. She is hurt. She is crying. And she is telling herself that you need to be free. And so finally, she was able to help this girl, which is herself, be free of the house. And so she wakes up. Slowly over time, her health improved, and she was able to resume a normal life. So that's just a long story to illustrate the attachment to identity, the sense of holding on to resentment and blame. It is drinking of the poison cup day after day. Whatever another person do to it, each time they do it and we drink that cup, we're essentially hurting ourselves, we are imprisoning ourselves, and over time, that house is going to collapse. And so the only way is to free ourselves by stopping our desire and our imagination, stopping the need to be respected. We can stop the need to be loved even, and initiate love for ourselves, initiate respect for ourselves. And when we are no longer tied down, attached, or entangled by desire and imagination for the things that are outside of us, then we can be more readily accepting of other people and accepting of ourselves. We can more readily respect ourselves, more readily understand ourselves, more readily accepting of ourselves, and more readily be generous with other people. Only if we know how to stop our desire and imagination at appropriate time. All right, so we can take a moment to take a look and notice that whenever there is any suffering, it is usually always desire and imagination that is at work. Okay, it is always the case that desire and imagination is at work. And when the desire and imagination is not met, we go negative. And the longer we hold on to the negativity, the resentment, the blame, the longer we are going to hurt ourselves. And so, very simple. Just stop desiring and stop imagination just for that moment. Okay, and then we can reinitiate new desire, new imagination, That is what what it means to align ourselves with the law of cyclical rotation. Okay, we move forward when appropriate. We stand still when appropriate. We move forward when appropriate. We come back when appropriate. We pick it up when appropriate. We let it go when appropriate. Being flexible with ourselves, being able to let go of our desire, initiate desire, letting go of our desire, and initiating desire is a powerful, powerful way that we can protect ourselves and protect other people. It is the energy of magnanimity. Okay? Any questions so far about that? Desire and imagination. Hope it had loosened up a little bit of our ego identity with that little discussion. Yeah? And so the question is, how does one stop the desire and imagination? If this is the energy that gives rise to the material reality, then what is the information? So the root or the innermost construct, okay? The innermost construct of any material is the information. The way it is made up, the way it is arranged, give rise to the energy level, which give rise to the physical or material manifestation. And so the information or informationization of magnanimity is simply the state of being unattached. Okay? Unattached. Being unattached to things and people, even ideas, will allow us to shake loose that sense of desire and imagination, shake loose that attachment to identity, allow us to be magnanimous, to be generous with other people. So a little story about this. A certain wise man by the name of Mahatma Gandhi was trying to catch a train. Train was leaving and he was a little late, so he had to run after the train. And as he was running after the train, somebody is holding out their hand and helping him to hop onto the train. He was on a train was moving, he's running, trying to hop on the train. And as soon as he hops into a train, one of his sandals fell off. Okay, so he's now on the train with only one sandal. He looked back at the sandal he has, he looked outside, the sandal that dropped was starting to, float far away. And so he proceeded to pick up the remaining sandal and toss it out the window in the direction of the first sandal. So the people who helped him on the train were asked, why, Gandhi, why did you throw away your sandal? He said, well, I can't take the first sandal back. I cannot come back. The train's not going to stop. I cannot jump down and get the first sandal. I have no use for this sandal. Now there's only one of two. So if I throw it down, then hopefully somebody will pick up the first one and the second one. He was unattached to his sandals. How many people can actually think about that? Right? In an instant, he is not attached to the remaining sandal. And he realized that somebody else may have a need for it. And therefore, he can be generous with the remaining sandal. Okay? The sense of being unattached to something is a powerful freedom that one can get. It allows us to be very generous with other people, generous with our spirit, generous with our emotion, and in many cases, generous with our material possession as well. Okay? Magnanimity is not merely about accepting the undesirable things in life. It is about being generous. It is about being afforded to give as often as needed. That is why when the old farmer asked a Zen master, what do I need to do to improve my fortune, even though I'm so poor, I have nothing? The Zen master said, give away your fortune. That is why when a rich person asked Jesus, what do I need to do to go to heaven? Jesus said, give away your fortune. Both unattached on a material level as well as on an emotional and spiritual level. It is very freeing when we are unattached, because it is those attachment to things, our desire and imagination, it is our attachment to our identity, our resources, okay? Every time we experience an attachment to our consumption, to resources, to appearing to identity, to even a sense of rest, we are entangled. And if those desire and imagination and attachment doesn't get satisfied, we go negative. And when we are negative, we have this sense of unfulfillment. And so we cannot afford to be magnanimous with other people. The only way to be magnanimous with other people is to be unattached and to be fulfilled wherever we are. Okay. And so when it comes to the idea of unattached, there is this concept that I want to share with you called possessing and is important, not possessing. When we think about possessing, we can think of things, material things like a house, right? Traditionally, when we say we have or we own a house, that house is in our name. And oftentimes it is difficult to let it go. Okay, if somebody uses it, we may feel some kind of attachment to it, and if somebody, don't take care of it, we feel pain and suffering because we have this sense of possessing the house. At the same time, for people who do not have a title to a house, for instance, they may feel a sense of unfulfillment of not having a house in comparison to other people who do have a house. But if we at any moment can initiate the wisdom of magnanimity with respect to being unattached, we can possess and not possess. For example, we may not possess a title to a house, but if we're renting the house, the title could be somebody else, but the fact that we are living in that house, then at that moment, we possess that house. In fact, by law, the owner are not allowed to enter your house unless they request permission, even though they rent it to you. Right? Once you move into a house, essentially, you are possessing that house in that moment, even though our name is not on the title. And if we can initiate the mentality of possessing that house, then we take care of it. We clean it, we maintain it, and we get to enjoy the fullness of, possessing that house. But the moment where the owner decides, they want to take the house back, they want to rent it to somebody else, or they want to sell it or whatever, then we quickly drop it. We don't need to possess it anymore. We don't become attached to it. We don't suffer. Then we can afford to be generous with the owner. We simply give it back in the good condition as if it is our own house. So now giving it back becomes like a gift, not just giving it back. You're actually giving a gift, your house. You're taking good care of it. You put love into it. We clean it. We maintain it. We give it back in a better condition than when we started to rent it. What about from the perspective of the owner? We own the title to a house, so we possess it. But by letting another person borrow it or renting it, if we want to maintain it, if we want that thing, if the house to be maintained well and in good condition, it is important that we impress upon the renter that it is their house. You give them the sense of ownership so that you can encourage them to take good care of it. I'm renting you this house, but while you're living in it, I want you to think of it as your own house. I want you to take good care of it. I've done my best to, prepare the house, clean it, paint it, and furnish it so that you could have the best possible condition. I want you to think of it as your own house so that you can take good care of it. And I will not invade your privacy. Okay, if I need to do some maintenance or something, I will let you know in advance. So we allow ourselves to not possess that house while somebody else is living in it. We can afford to be generous, to be magnanimous, because we are unattached. Okay. Same thing with money. Okay. If we are attached to physical money, cash, gold, or the numbers in our bank account, then that is very limited. If we want to do something, we want to buy something that is beyond the physical sum of cash that we have, then we would experience some kind of suffering, right? Our imagination and desire, we suffer when we cannot satisfy our desire. But if we, in terms of money, if we can shake loose our attachment to the physical manifestation of money and think of money in terms of energy and information, then we can still possess something that is outside of our range of material possessing the money by, let's say, borrowing the money. Okay, then we can still possess that thing without actually having the money for it, as long as we have a plan to pay back the money, to pay back the loan. Right? We talked about money in terms of energy. Just a very brief on this. Let's use green for money. Money. Okay, so like all things, it has the information, it has the material manifestation, it has an energy, and it has the information. The material is the cash, right? Cash, bank account, stuff like gold, for example, okay? But that is very limited. Money can be thought of as energy. Energy is not limited. Money, people are money. Oh, okay. Wherever there's people, there's money. You can borrow money from people, people can give it to you. Okay? Then they become more loose, it becomes bigger. Information. Business ideas is money. We may not have any cash, but if we have a wonderful business idea, and if that idea can attract people through the law of causality, affinity, then good idea, good people, it's going to bring in material money. Only if we are unattached from the material concept of money, then we can afford to be generous with other people. We may not have money to give to people, but we can give them ideas. We can give them connection to other people. Right? When we think about the idea of magnanimity, it is a spirit of generosity. When Jesus said, give away your fortune, and you give all your cash away, then that's great. But then you'll be poor materially. You can't give anymore. There are three things that we can give to another person. One is the total causal outcome, which is the material stuff. Another thing is the total causal knowledge. Okay, so we're going to call causal causal knowledge, ideas, okay? This is causal outcome. Our house, our gold, our cash, material stuff. This is very limited. You give it, you run out. That's it. Causal knowledge, you can give it again and again and again. Also, our causal affinity, our relationship, our referral. You can connect you can refer your employer, I don't know, your lawyer to your friend, even if you don't use your lawyer. You can refer your business partner to your friend, even if you don't, use them anymore. So there are three things that we can give to other people. The causal outcome, which are the material stuff, that's very limited. But to give other people your knowledge and your affinity, you can give it as many times as you want. If you can give your affinity with other people, we call that your the value connector. Yeah, we have a discussion about the value connector before, right? Yeah, we connect people to things and other people of value. To give people our knowledge, it makes us a sage, a master, a mentor, a wise person. We can give other people the energy of our serenity, the energy of our magnanimity, the energy of our honor and gratitude. And we can give freely and unlimitedly if we are not attached to it. Some people are attached to their own knowledge and they will copyright it and they would hide it and it's a trade secret and they don't want anybody else to have it. And that's fine. But they will be the only one who's rich, and then that will limit their total causal outcome. But if you can freely give away your knowledge, then you will turn that engine of value creation, the engine of blessing and merit, and thereby receiving income, not always in the form of material income, but you receive in terms of good opportunities in life. So there's a power in being unattached. And that's what it means to be a person of magnanimity. I think that's all I have for today. Lesson, impression, realization. What do you guys think? Anything new? Anything stand out for you?
I think for me, it was tolerance. I kind of got a little bit of a story too. Like somebody robbed my car. They took my prescription sunglasses and things out of the car, and I could have got angry or whatever about it, but I kind of thought I didn't blame them because I left my doors unlocked.
There you go.
And I didn't blame myself either because it happened by condition. So it was like that condition at that time. Who knows why I didn't lock my doors, but yeah, I just thought the glasses weren't that important. They didn't mean that too much to me. And even though I thought, well, maybe they didn't have any respect for my property, that's their job. That's their job they're doing at that time.
Yeah.
And I could have blamed myself by not locking my doors. And yeah, that's kind of what I got out of that story. Just came to my mind when we were talking about all this respect and things like that, respect for people's property and that. But to me, these kids or whoever it was, it's their job and that's what they do. And I just respected them for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Great way to tie in the lesson with a real life example, huh?
Yes.
Good job, Ron. Yeah. And if you understand the human construct, understand the spiritual and religious perspective, you also understand that at that moment, you were fated to be robbed. If it wasn't this person, then somebody else would have robbed.
Unless they have the same eyes as I do, those glasses are not good for me. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Great, great. Okay, well, yeah, I'm grateful that you're taking the time to join the Zoom today. Okay. Next week, I don't know what we'll talk about yet. We may go into honor and gratitude, or there may be some other material in between.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Frank. I appreciate all your lessons and I have very much gratitude towards you. Thank you.
Okay. I'm honored by your presence and your participation as well. You are very generous with your time. You are a person of magnanimity. You are unattached.
Unattached. I was unattached to those glasses too. So
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
okay. Thank you, Frank.
Okay, we'll see you next week, okay? Bye-bye. Thank you everybody else as well. Bye-bye.